Hey guys, so Pathfinder 1.7 is still out there somewhere, super elusive, but we, the common man, have yet to hear from it. So today, for your Pathfinder playtest coverage, I wanted to do something a little different. We've talked in the past about running adventure paths, things I liked, things I didn't like, and way back in the day with the IOPC, we talked about monsters by CR, highlighting one of each from 1 to 20 plus, highlighting our favorites. Man, those chats definitely took like 4 hours because we would ramble, and it was probably the best thing ever. But we're going to do something a little bit in that vein today because there's one monster that I've seen in this playtest that I really wanted to highlight for you guys. If you guys are liking what you're seeing, be sure to like and subscribe. And if there's any monsters you'd like me to dig deep on, build an encounter around, see what's better, worse, etc., let me know. Today, though, this episode of your Pathfinder playtest coverage was brought to you in part by the Inn of Planar Crossroads, because, you know, I can't think about talking about monsters without those guys. So thanks for all your support, dudes. Now, the Sea Serpent. So one thing I've noticed, by and large, in the Pathfinder playtest compared to Pathfinder 1e is most of the monsters are swinging around the same that they were swinging in Pathfinder 1e. They've got basically the same CR or level now. The numbers come out around the same, but there's a couple new things that we have to think about as GMs when we're going to use monsters to make sure that they will remain effective, because we want to challenge our players, right? Of course we do. Even if we're not playing a very lethal, highly optimized game, and those games exist, I recognize you guys. We don't necessarily want all of our encounters to be player rolls up, player great cleaves his way through a horde of goblins, though of course that really feels good sometimes, oh man. We want to make sure that our players are fighting for their lives. And the Sea Serpent, again, the only creature in my entire career I've TPK'd a party with that wasn't like story driven, definitely does that. More or less, the Sea Serpent looks exactly the same as it did in 1e. And if I had to hazard a guess, probably even farther back. It still capsizes, it still constricts, it still swallows whole, it attacks with a bite, it attacks with a tail, and it's still really hard to find this thing. It works a little differently in the playtest. Before, it was a permanent non-detection, and a plus 40 circumstance bonus to stealth, moving up to its run speed 300 feet as a pass without trace. In the playtest, it's just automatically counteracting any detection, revelation, or scrying divination thrown at it, but it's the same idea, and it gets to use its stealth check to do so. One of the things I've noticed as a GM who likes to let the fumbles ride is that the third attack in a monster's given attack routine, assuming we're gonna like strike, is almost certain to miss and probably fumbled as well. Especially if we're going up against dudes with raised shields, especially if we're going up against guys that have buffed all their AC into oblivion and back. And rules is written, that's fine, unless somebody's fighter or monk or ranger or something has a reaction they can use when a strike is fumbled against them. But we want to make sure all of our actions are useful actions, and that's where Spine Break comes in on the playtest Sea Serpent. Spine Break says that the Sea Serpent extends the spines along its back and swims or strides each creature the serpent is adjacent to at any point during this movement, takes 4d6 plus 8 slashing damage, DC 28 reflex save. For half or no damage on a critical success, we assume double on a fumble, 4 degrees of fireball coming out your back. But why that's good is that means that I, the GM, who's playing the Sea Serpent, can try to bite with my jaws, then attack with my agile tail for 2d12 plus 16 plus grab, or 2d6 plus 16 plus grab at a reach of 20 to 30 feet, and then use my swim speed of 90 feet. Assuming I grab 2 party members, I'm adjacent to them as I move, and with a swim speed of 90, I bet I can move around everybody as I do so, hitting the entire party and not using that -8 or -10 from the multiple attack penalty, still putting the damage in. Assuming, you know, I don't want to just throw an athletics check down and try to eat you, but that's a different story. Now, the Sea Serpent is uncommonly fast on land, despite it being an aquatic creature with a speed of 20. It can get pretty much anywhere the heavy armored guy can. A speed of 20 doesn't sound that great from the point of view of someone who plays a lot of 3.5 and Pathfinder and stuff. Like, okay, I can move 4 squares, but remember, we can stride 3 times now. That can be a speed of 60 or 40 and then strike if we need it to be, to say nothing of that massive 90-foot swim speed. We're a gargantuan creature, so we're already taking up 4x4 on the board, and we can move 18 squares in a stride in the water. 18 squares probably circles the party, to say nothing of if we need to get away. Double stride, it's 36! That's amazing. Nobody can keep up with that unless they have some kind of magic swim speed, at least that I'm aware of right now. But wait, Tommy, why would we do that? We'd be so far away. Well, I'll tell you why. The Sea Serpent now has a ranged attack. Remember how I said we want to make sure our monsters are always useful? That's definitely a way to do it. In addition to having an action that will deal damage without using that big ol' -10, or -8 if we're tail whipping, we have a ranged attack now which stops players that might be flying above us shooting down. There definitely was a point in time in my first edition career where I had all my party split up because to be honest, one of my favorite characters I ever GM'd for wanted to play a pirate, and she needed to go out and do some proving in the lands of the Lenorm Kings, piloting her own ship. And her, a Kitsune Bard, and her leadership character, a Gripply Alchemist, ran afoul of Charybdis. And how did they beat Charybdis, you ask? Well, the Kitsune cast fly and took the Gripply up, and the Gripply threw bombs down until it died. And I had basically no response. Whereas the Sea Serpent spits literally psychotropic algae in this playtest. Yeah, you heard that right. This dude is spitting drugs at you. It's a Fortitude save DC 28. That's after the 2d6 plus 8 bludgeoning damage you take from water gun here. Targets touch with a plus 22 and shoots out to 100 feet, so we can stride away and then cannon back. The big thing most players will have to worry about with Sea Serpent algae is the confusion bit, and that's really good. Not necessarily as good as it used to be, but it can shut off a lot of players. When I use this thing, that's how I shut off my Sorceress and my Cleric, was, you know, making them trip on psychotropic algae. But if you're flying while you're affected by this, at stage 1 you descend 20 feet, at stage 2 you descend to the ground or the water below. Oh, that's in range of the Sea Serpent's reach of 30 feet with its tail that can grab you probably, or 20 feet with its jaws that also can do a grab. In 1E, this thing could move pretty fast and could hide. And of course, we're still capsizing boats, which is nothing to shake a stick at all. But here, we're at equal power as we were in first edition, but also we have just so many other toys to play with that make us as GMs have more to do with a monster in a given encounter. That's what makes this thing, frankly, that's what made this thing the awesome boss monster that it was in the Mirrored Moon. Swim up, grab, eat a dude, spit at the people on the shore, come back to fight me later, everyone's in the water, swim past. God forbid you brought a boat, I'm gonna tip that boat over. It just goes on forever. Really, there hasn't been a monster that's impressed me as much as the Sea Serpent in a while, and I kind of, to be honest with you, wasn't sure if I was going to be expecting that in the Pathfinder playtest, and here I stand humbly surprised. I've used several other monsters and they all are very unique. T-Rexes feel a little more like T-Rexes, rocks have a lot of fun things they can do, and although, personally, I'm a big fan of Pathfinder's bloat, D&D's bloat. Yeah, it means a lot of books to read, but that's what the SRDs are for, and you don't literally need to know everything to still have fun. It's just a matter of having lots of tools in the toolbox. But in the playtest, once we have that bloat, and eventually we will, as Pathfinder 2nd Edition hangs out for longer and longer, it seems to me that each and every monster we're fighting is going to have unique things it can do in combat, and I think that's just super sweet. It keeps our encounters interesting, it keeps our players guessing. Frankly, as a GM, it keeps me interested running monsters because I have all these things I'm doing. And also, at least in the case of the Sea Serpent, the things that it's getting are super powerful. But what do you guys think? What monsters have you used so far in the Pathfinder playtest that have been particularly effective, or have there been any that have been particularly not the best? Let me know about it in the comments. We'll keep that conversation going, of course. But thank you guys so much for watching, as always. That's all we have for today. Unless, of course, a couple hours pass and Paizo drops 1.7, in which case, hey, you're getting 2 videos today. Otherwise, we'll be back at it next week for more of your playtest coverage. Min-maxing for fun and profit will be Legacy Pathfinder again this week for patron request, talking about the druids. So hey, you know, if you want to learn how to kill something in 2 rounds with Throat Slicer and grappling shenanigans, be there. I'll see you then, guys.